It's Thursday, the 9th of September 2021. Welcome to Fear and Greed, the business podcast that sets you up for a successful day. I'm Sean Aylmer. The Prime Minister and Federal Health Minister are in hot water about why they didn't do more to access Pfizer jabs when the country needed them. That's our main story. Also coming up in today's podcast, Macquarie Group's share price takes off after upgrading its outlook. Retailers stock up on goods ahead of Black Friday sales, but risk getting stuck with unsold products. And the number of people with 2 jobs hits a record high. Then stay listening for my chat about businesses using the pandemic to innovate. But first, here's a brief look at markets. Wall Street fell for the third consecutive session overnight, led lower by technology stocks. In early afternoon trading, the Nasdaq was off 0.5%, and the S&P 500 and Dow Jones Industrial Average were both 0.2% lower. European markets were sharply lower, with the Stoxx Europe 600 off 1% and London's FTSE down 0.8%. The European Central Bank is due to meet tonight, and investors are watching closely to see if the central bank will slow down its bond purchase program. The S&P ASX 200 closed down 0.25% yesterday to 7,512 points. It was pulled down mostly by resource stocks and consumer staples, as well as a poor lead-in from the US following concerns about the economic outlook over there. Locally, it was a rough day for the gold diggers. The price of the precious metal fell below $1,800 an ounce after hitting a 4-week high late last week. St Barbara traded ex-dividend and fell more than 6%. Northern Star, Westgold Resources and Silver Lake Resources all closed down around 5%. Market leader Newcrest was off about 3%. Oil prices jumped overnight with Brent crude up close to 1.5% and the Aussie dollar is trading at 73.7 US cents. Prime Minister Scott Morrison and the federal government is under growing criticism over its handling of the COVID vaccine rollout after emails show that the Health Minister, Greg Hunt, didn't take a meeting with Pfizer executives in the middle of last year, potentially missing the opportunity to access the jab earlier than eventuated. Pfizer sent the email on June 30 last year, suggesting a meeting between the health department and the pharmaceutical company. 3 days later, the department responded, saying Mr. Hunt would not attend meetings. Eventually, a meeting was held with local representatives of the company on July 10, and then almost 2 weeks later, Pfizer wrote to the department saying the US and the United Kingdom had signed deals with the group. Mr. Hunt's office didn't meet with the company until August 4. Australia initially went with AstraZeneca and then signed a deal with Pfizer, but not until November. This is politically very challenging for the government. Former Prime Minister Kevin Rudd said he had made unsolicited representations to Pfizer's global boss on behalf of Australia. This caused the Labor Party to claim that the Prime Minister and his team were too slow to engage, something Mr. Morrison and Mr. Hunt rejected. But the email chain obtained under Freedom of Information requests shines a different light on the situation. Australia has lagged the rest of the world in the race to vaccinate. While we are pushing towards 70% vaccination rates so as to start opening up the economy, other nations are already rolling out booster jabs. Mr. Morrison originally said it wasn't a race to vaccinate. Turns out he was wrong. This could be politically very damaging for the federal government. In a moment, the rest of the news you need to know this morning. In overseas news, coronavirus-related deaths in the United Kingdom jumped by nearly 40% in the first week of September, as the beginning of a third wave of COVID for the country starts to emerge. Hospital admissions increased by 14%. Meanwhile, the head of the World Health Organization is calling for a moratorium on booster shots in rich countries so developing nations can get access to vaccines. Scaling back of the US Federal Reserve's bond buying program could be appropriate later in the year, according to a senior official. While the Delta variant of COVID-19 continues to pose a risk, the outlook for inflation was better and the jobs market was picking up. Central banks around the world, including the Reserve Bank of Australia on Tuesday, are starting to talk about slowing bond purchases and tightening monetary policy ever so slightly. And the Taliban has formed its first caretaker government since taking control of Afghanistan at the end of last month. It isn't necessarily one the West agrees with. Several members of the new government have been targets of sanctions for terrorism, while the Interior Minister is on the United Nations Most Wanted list. Locally, The Morrison government will begin issuing certificates allowing fully vaccinated Australians to travel overseas within weeks. The vaccination certificate will be available in either digital or printed form from next month, and Canberra is currently in talks with other nations to determine which vaccines will be recognised in travel bubble arrangements. Travellers' immunisation status will be linked to their passport chips. Meanwhile, how vaccine passports are presented is under debate between the states. Check-in apps aren't popular with everyone. The National Cabinet is expected to discuss the issue tomorrow. The number of COVID cases in New South Wales jumped back up again yesterday to 1,480, while in Victoria they dropped slightly to 221. The ACT recorded 20 new cases, while Queensland reported no cases. A study of the current outbreak in New South Wales shows that 98% of infected children and teenagers were asymptomatic or showed only mild symptoms. In Victoria, restrictions were eased for regional areas of the state, with the exception of Shepparton. The changes kick in tonight. The state is fast approaching 40% full vaccination, according to Premier Daniel Andrews. New South Wales residents will find out more today about how long its lockdown will last. Macquarie Group said it expects its half-year profit to nearly double from a year earlier. Macquarie said the 6 months to the end of September might be slightly down from the $2 billion earned during the half year to the end of March. Its commodities business has been particularly strong, no doubt due to higher prices. Its global markets business has also done well. Macquarie's share price closed up 4.7% yesterday and is up more than 13% over the past month. Retailers are stocking up ahead of the Black Friday sales, with inventories 20% higher than 2 years ago. Harvey Norman, JB Hi-Fi, Super Retail Group, The Reject Shop, Wesfarmers, Kmart and Bunnings chains, footwear retailer Accent Group and appliance maker Breville have boosted stock levels as a buffer against global shortages and shipping delays, according to a report in the Financial Review. The downside, as Kogan.com found out earlier in the year, is that if people don't buy goods, then the retailers get lumped with unsold products. BHP said it contributed more than $34 billion to the Australian economy last financial year, including $11 billion to suppliers, $6 billion in dividends and interest payments, and $12 billion in tax, royalties and other payments to governments. It also paid employees a total of $4.5 billion. Big numbers. In a decision that could have ramifications for all social media users, the High Court has ruled that media outlets are legally responsible as publishers for third-party comments on their Facebook pages. The New South Wales Court of Appeal ruled in June last year that news outlets were liable as publishers of readers' Facebook comments about former Northern Territory youth detainee Dylan Voller, because they facilitated the comments by setting up and posting on public Facebook pages. The media outlets appealed to the High Court, and that was dismissed. Since the original case, Facebook has enabled organisations and individuals to turn off comments on Facebook pages, something that hadn't been allowed. But the inference is that if you post something about someone and allow and encourage commentary which might be negative, you could be in hot water. The number of people holding more than one job has risen to its highest level in at least 27 years. During the June quarter, 6.5% of employed people had a second job, according to the Bureau of Statistics. That was up from 4.9% a year earlier in the middle of the pandemic. The ABS series started in 1994, and if you look at the long-term trend, it's been pretty steady. Then it tumbles in 2020 and surges in 2021. Maybe people shocked by the impact of the pandemic are working as much as they can. Colonial First State, the Commonwealth Bank subsidiary currently being sold to private equity group KKR, has been found to have misled and deceived almost 13,000 customers in a bid to keep them in one of its own products, rather than have them swap to a cheaper MySuper account. The Federal Court found the superannuation business had engaged in a messaging campaign to stop customers swapping accounts, according to the Australian Securities and Investments Commission. Apollo Tourism and Leisure is originally a family-run business that rents out RVs or recreational vehicles, think grey nomads. It's now listed on the ASX and operates vehicles in Australia, New Zealand, North America, Germany, the United Kingdom and Ireland. As you can imagine, it's been hammered by the COVID pandemic, and its global fleet has fallen from 4,700 to 2,700. Its US operations are in hibernation, and its share price is 1/4 of what it was in early 2018. Mostly its fans are rented by international visitors. Its boss, Luc Trichet, yesterday told the Financial Review that Canada was starting to open up again and Australia and New Zealand were just a few months behind. He's hopeful that RVs will soon hit the road again. Santos Chief Executive Kevin Gallagher said the merger with Oil Search will double the oil and gas producers' low-cost growth projects and spit out cash to fund clean energy ventures. One such venture might be direct air capture, whereby carbon dioxide is extracted and injected underground in the company's planned carbon storage project in South Australia. Santos is also looking at hydrogen projects at Moomba in Victoria and Darwin. One of the most exciting days of the year for tech heads, the launch of the latest Apple iPhone, is happening next Wednesday morning Australian time. Media reports suggest it's actually the launch of 4 new iPhones, as well as an Apple Watch with a bigger screen. The next few months is the critical selling season for the world's biggest company, with estimates suggesting it will generate around $120 billion in revenue over the next 3 months. And finally, has anyone else been following the incredible Britney Spears saga? Yep, the pop singer Britney Spears. Back in 2008, her father, Jamie Spears, had a court rule that he should control her personal and financial affairs forever. It was an incredibly prescriptive ruling, and he's pretty much controlled his daughter ever since. Britney has complained occasionally over the years, but has become much louder over the past year. The 39-year-old pop singer said the arrangement was abusive and humiliating. And for most of this year, it's been a battle between the Spears. Yesterday, Jamie Spears asked a Los Angeles court to end the conservatorship, saying circumstances had changed. Looks like Britney will get control of her estimated $60 million fortune. Up next is the Daily Interview, and today I'm talking to Luke Sayers. Luke's one of the most respected business leaders in the country, having led PwC Australia as CEO for the maximum term of 8 years. Now he's gone out on his own with a rapidly growing firm focused on investment, innovation and disruption. It's a great chat. Up next in the Fear and Greed playlist on your podcast platform or at fearandgreed.com.au. It's Thursday, the 9th of September 2021. I'm Sean Aylmer, and that was Fear and Greed. Enjoy your day.